You're listening to The Blunt Truth. Unscripted, uncensored, unwoke. Get ready to challenge everything.
All right, we are here with episode 7 of The Blunt Truth. This is a buddy of mine, Nick Krem, and I have him here to talk about entrepreneurship and why you should be starting your own business or side hustle if you're not already, and why there's literally less than no reason for you not to. Nick, I'll let you introduce yourself and then I'll talk about how we met a little bit.
Yeah, I guess my name's Nick Krem. My brother and I, so it's my brother and I have been in business together for 6 years now. We grew our first business into 13 countries in all 50 states. And then from there, we actually, it's been a fun ride. At one time, we had a content house in Orlando, Florida. It was like a 7-bedroom house. And we turned it into a giant video studio because we just had this vision. So we literally went to IKEA and just filled up this house and made it different studios in each rooms of the house. Had agents flying in from all over the country to shoot content. And then, AI came into the fold. We realized, holy shit, if we don't make an adjustment, we're going to be put out of business. So then we adapted quickly, created the world's first AI certified agent. And we just passed 1,000 students at our institute now.
Nice, dude. Yeah. So basically, he's crushing it in the business world. Now, the reason this episode is important to me is that I started entrepreneurship at age 14. And it was just by chance because I had been doing close-up magic my whole life. In high school, my friends were getting fast food jobs, getting paychecks. And I'm like, damn, I want some spending money.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to, flip hamburgers and make French fries for 8 hours. I'm like bouncing off the walls, right? So I just went to the mall with my friend that also did magic. I asked for tips very awkwardly, went home after like 2.5 hours, and the money that I counted was like way more per hour than my friends were making. I feel very lucky to have had that experience because, I feel like there's almost a flip that switches and you realize it's not that hard. And we'll talk about that. But real quick, you and I met at a mastermind in Key West, Florida, real estate mastermind, and connected on Facebook and pretty much just had an online friendship since then. But we run in similar business circles. Michael Reese, Jay Kinder, I've had several convos with them between now and then. So it's cool to actually catch up with you. So what do you think about what I just said about it's not actually that hard to maybe generate some serious income?
I feel like that's a very loaded statement because for me, it's simple. I think it's simple, but it is hard to keep it simple, right? Because a lot of times we try making it a lot more complex than it has to be. When it comes down to it, it's like, well, you need something to sell and you need to market it. You have a business. And that's really how simple it is. And then you just need to be more consistent and market it more than anybody else. Like in business, the best marketer wins, in my opinion, right? Like the best marketer always wins. It's not the best run business, it's the best marketed business. And nowadays with social media, anybody can literally just pick up your phone and you have a business right there. So I wouldn't say it's not hard because I'll tell you what, there's a lot of hardships that come with this. I spill my drink.
I'll chop this part out if you want.
I bet. What I'll say is it's a lot simpler than people think. And I think life in general is more simple than a lot of people make it out to be. It's just figuring out what you really want. And, I think somebody that I listened to before said, what's harder, figuring out what you really want or figuring out how to get there? And most people say, oh, how to get there because I know what I really want. And it's like, if you knew what you really wanted, and I mean, really wanted, the how actually becomes really easy. So I think with business, the real question is, what do you really want? Once you figure that out, it does become pretty simple.
I so agree. And, I was so resistant to this idea that it all starts with clarity on the future. I can vividly remember being in MAPS leadership coaching when I was the MCA at Keller Williams Pikesville. And my coach was like trying to get me to be clear on the future. And I was being such a stubborn hardhead about it, bro. I was like, no, I flow. I go day by day. And what I've learned is that we were both right in a sense. Yes, it all starts with clarity on the future. And the more clarity, the better. And we'll talk about this in a second, but like the how you get there is almost beyond your control. It's almost a surrender thing where you just keep focusing on getting more and more clear and sculpting that vision. And by doing that, whatever you want to call it, higher powers, whether you're training yourself to notice opportunities, whether you're motivating yourself to see things a certain way, whatever's going on, the how takes care of itself in a lot of ways, I think.
Yeah, and look, we're all a lot more resilient than we think. Look, if you're watching this, you're alive. That means you made it through a lot of shit to this point, right? If you're watching this, you're alive. It means you made it through a lot of things in your life. So I think we're all a lot more resilient than we think. And it's really that clarity report. And I think there are just some simple things that have helped me get clarity and help me make better actions. One of the best exercises that I do this every single quarter, once I learned about this about 7 years ago. It's a real simple exercise that helps me get more clarity in my life and get me in a better direction. And it's literally, I sit there and I write, who are 3 people I should spend less time with and 3 people I should spend more time with? Because you are who you surround yourself with. And I'll tell you what, when I say this, you probably know who are 3 people off the top of your head you should spend less time with. The trick of it is actually doing it, right? So I think a lot of these things are, who you surround yourself with matters, because you start getting around different individuals who think positively, who move in a certain direction. You start realizing, you know what? These people aren't that different from me. Because you know what? That Key West thing that you said we met at, that changed my life, because there's I was the smallest name in that room, I believe. I was just at a call center. I was kind of running a call center at that point, and my mentor snuck me in that room. The biggest, huge names in real estate are speaking on stage. And my biggest takeaway was they're just people. They're just people who persevered through some shit and kept going. I'm no different. Once you start spending more time with higher achievers and you realize, oh, they're just people who just do things every single day, you start realizing you could do it too.
Yeah, I agree 1,000%, and you mentioned figuring it out, and that ties into persevering so much because, in my opinion, the best way to figure out or get clear on what you want is to try stuff. And I think that's where people get stuck is like, am I a magician now? No. Am I an accountant? Am I a mortgage loan processor? Am I a real estate agent? Am I a property manager? I'm none of the things that I once was at various points. But if you're not comfortable with the discomfort of the killing your ego over and over again,
True.
then you're going to get stuck and not get clear. So if you're not clear, it could be because you're not doing enough. Things are figured out by trying and then seeing.
Yeah. And since we're talking about just getting started in entrepreneurship, this is something I have a pretty firm grasp and belief in is, everybody says they have haters, right? Everybody says they have haters, but nobody is one. Nobody will tell you they're a hater. So to me, the math is mathin', right? If everybody in the world has a bunch of haters, but nobody is a hater, how does that work? So one of my beliefs is that if you've never looked at yourself in the mirror and acknowledged, you know what, I am a hater on things. If you've never acknowledged to yourself that you're a hater, then you still are one, right? And you'll never be able to be a business owner, be able to get to the next level because you're just hating on other people. Oh, that's so easy. Oh, that's a simple idea. Oh, anybody could do that. Well, if anybody can do it, why aren't you? So I think it's acknowledging, killing your ego, like you just said. Acknowledge that you're a hater on some level. Free yourself from all of that hate, and then you'll be able to start looking for opportunities. Be happy for people and say, well, if anybody can do that, why can't I?
That reminds me of a pivotal moment I had for the same lesson, bro. And it was ironically Joe Rogan. It was like a really early Joe Rogan episode, bro. I was like 15 or 16. He was nowhere. This is when he was like a independent internet podcaster. You know what I'm saying? It was like an early episode. And he's like, you can't be jealous, man. You can't be jealous of people. You gotta figure out some way in your mind, man, to shift that into being inspired and shift that envy into being like, I can do it too. And that ties into what you're saying about they're just people and it's not easy, bro. And I don't even know how I did it. Couldn't even tell you, but I know I set the intention. I was like, you know what? I don't want to be jealous. And even today, when I notice myself being a hater, side note, I will proudly say I am a hater against people that traffic humans and do horrible things. There's lots of evil folks that I will proudly hate against. That's not what this is about.
I don't think that's like a hater, though. That's like
True.
Hating, I feel like, is somebody who's doing something that's admirable or doing good things. And child trafficking is not. I'll hate on that too all day.
Fair. Yeah, you mean throwing shade, so to speak, or capping.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Being jealous. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll remind myself, Steven, pause, you're being a hater. I know I usually use that language, but I probably will now.
Yeah.
And I'll say, you can do it too. That's all it means. Just notice that you can do it too. And that usually helps me do that shift.
Yeah, and I think like you said, I love how you said like killing your ego. Man, my ego's taken a lot of hits since I started this. A lot of hits. It's a lot of inward reflection and just understanding too. I think we're changing a relationship with the word no. You got to change a relationship with the word no because it's a powerful tool that can either be used against you or used for you, right? Because if somebody tells you no and it just completely kills you inside, and how could they tell me no? It's going to be really hard. And on the flip side of it, if you can't tell somebody no, it's going to be hard too in your life because then you're just saying, you don't like, for example, you don't really want to go out, but your friend's like, come on, let's go out, let's do this. And you're like, well, okay. How many times? I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting there holding a drink and like, why the frick am I here? Why am I doing this? And I'm just angry at myself. So, like, being able to say no and being able to take a no. If you can take a no and you can say no to people, man, you can really be set up for business because those are two of the most powerful, I think, attributes you can have as a business owner.
Absolutely. And this is kind of spiritual tie-in here, but I believe that there's like something along the lines of soul tribes or soul groups or
Mm,
like souls that we vibe with. And I kind of just use the estimate of like 12 or 13 because it's like the
okay.
biblical number of tribes. And I feel like maybe there's a tie in. But the
Yeah.
point is, I believe, based on principles of like authenticity being the highest vibration, it activates your magnetism the most. So when you're truly authentic, you are repelling way more people than you're attracting just by design of nature, design of the universe. Like anyone that everyone loves or kisses everyone's butt, I'm always skeptical of their authenticity, at least. Not necessarily their integrity or anything, but it's like when you're really who you are in your heart of hearts, like that weird person when no one's looking,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna have like 85, 90s, whatever percent of people be like, that is not for me. But you also get people, that last 10, 15% to be like, yo, you're my soul fam. And so I think the same applies with business and with marketing. Don't be afraid to push people away in your
Yeah.
personal life and your professional life because that space always gets filled with something new.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. And my brother and I were just talking about this too, about just frequencies. Like when you're vibing at your natural frequency, the life feels like jazz, right? Like things just seem to be going your way. And it's like, it's never a straight line in jazz, right? Like there's always little things that pop up. But as long as you know your rhythm and your beat, then you can walk through life. And then you find people right away. Like, do they match my frequency or don't they? And you can notice that before they even say a word. Like, are these people in my frequency? Are these people jiving with me? And if not, maybe they're at a higher frequency. And, I think we're not going to go left field. So I'm going to keep it back into that area. But like just really understanding, look, there are some will, some won't. So what? One of my favorite, like another great saying I like saying, hey, some will like me, some won't like me. So what? Some people will do business with me. Some people won't do business with me. So what? Let's keep getting another.
And finding a way to fall in love with that no is where it gets really powerful. And I've heard a lot of frameworks, as I'm sure you have, between the various trainers and educators. Fail forward. Every no is closer to a yes. Grant Cardone does the thing where you math out how much you made on the yes to how many no's before it, and you get paid on
Yeah.
the no's. So if you can just find some way for yourself to actually light up with excitement when someone rejects you, whew, you're in a good spot.
No, absolutely. I think Going for No was a book that I read early on. And it teaches you to celebrate your no's because every no gets you closer to a yes. And actually going into your day, don't have a sales goal, have a no goals. Like don't leave the office today unless you get 15 no's. Right. And then all of a sudden, some days you get a shit ton of yeses and you're like, give me a no. Like I need to get another no. Right. So like it teaches you to kind of celebrate your no's.
That's a good problem to have. Yeah, and you
Right. Yeah.
mentioned,
Yeah.
sorry,
No,
you
you're good.
mentioned jazz, and this is like a little bit unrelated to that, but it reminded
Yeah.
me of something Nick Tilia teaches, which I remind myself all the time. And it's like the journey is never a straight line on a broader sense, right? Towards that vision, towards that goal, towards whatever life we want to experience, whatever timeline we want to get to. But it's like a vacation where you're driving across the country. You might be stopping at a gas station bathroom. You might be stopping at a cheap motel along the way where it's a little bit grimy, uncomfortable,
Yeah.
and dirty, but you don't trip. You're never like, this is who I am, because you know without a doubt that you're headed towards vacation destination. So it's got to
Mm.
be the same way with your vision and your life. You have to really practice faith. That's faith. That's real faith.
It is. And it's how clear is your vision? Like we even got down, like we'll do exercise every now. When I say we, it's me and my brother and I've been running our business the last 6 years and, doing exercises as far as really painting a picture. And it's like, where are you exactly in this future? Like, don't give me, okay, here's what we have in these things. Where are you? What do you smell? What do you see? What's around you? Who do you see? What's going on? Is there music? Like, and really getting down to like having a distinct image of who you are and where you're at in your future. And then every now and then, because like you'll go down the path and you might get a little deviated, and then you go back and read that. You're like, what still holds true to me on this? And then maybe make a slight adjustment, but it's kind of like the path is wavy, the path is never straight, but just always kind of having that North Star to keep you going. Because chances are, if you're like me at one point in your life, you ended up somewhere and you had no idea how the hell you got there, right? That's not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling. Having no idea, like, how did I let my life get to this point? It's not a good feeling to have.
I've been there, I've been homeless 5 times, sometimes more by choice, sometimes less by choice. I've always turned it into car camping, taking great care of my dogs, driving across the
Yeah.
country. And I'd be hustling consulting on LinkedIn, bro, $20, $30 for a 20
Yeah.
minute, 30-minute consult. And I have my box that holds the dog supplies would be on my lap of the driver's seat. I'd be at a travel
Yeah.
stint, $5 for like hours of Wi-Fi on top.
Yeah.
I mean, there are actually some smaller fitness brands and like local gyms that I did some work for it during that time that are probably still running on the systems that I
Yeah.
built.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I remember early on, my brother and I would go to hotels that had like continental breakfasts because we wanted to envision what it'd like to travel. Plus, it was free food. So, like, we'd walk in and like dressed up, acting like we were supposed to be there. And we would work from the hotel and then grab their breakfast and, just act like we were traveling the country and just to envision what it was like. But yeah, that just
Right.
your story reminded me of that. Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
And I'll tell people, like, I've taken a lot of entrepreneurs through the visioning process, through a lot
Mhm.
of different frameworks. And the biggest challenge that is that they get discouraged or overwhelmed because it's not all clear. Be like, you know, like I'm not seeing it. And it's okay because it comes in bits and pieces. It really does. Like there's something you're clear on. You got to figure out what it is. Is it this non-negotiable? Is it you're going to be adopting animals? Like you said, is there music? Like there's something you can latch on to and lean into because that's like a glimmer of a probable timeline that
Yeah.
you can't imagine something if it's not possible for you to manifest. I feel like that's
Yeah.
part of the template of the simulation. So yeah.
Yeah. No, manifesting and actually having a clear vision and making it as clear as possible for you and just working towards it every day. Or you know what, you'll get closer and closer. I think that's just the crux of it. There's no such thing as overnight success. Everybody says it's cliche, but it just doesn't happen. There's always so much more work that goes into it. And I feel like that's people's excuse is like, yeah, they got lucky. Yeah, it's an excuse. Oh, they did it overnight. No, they didn't. You probably know they didn't too, but it kind of makes you feel better for not taking action. So you can either take action or you could just be a hater.
Facts. No
Yeah.
0 days. That's a huge thing on mine. If there's a project, if there's a part of my life I have a goal for, no 0 days. I don't care if it's
I
just
like that.
imagining more about that thing. You know what I mean? Hold on. Let me just see if I can remember what I was going to respond to you real
Yeah,
real
yeah, yeah.
quick. Oh yeah, okay. I'll kick back in here. What I was going to say is there are so many times when I could have quit and stopped. Any of those times living out of my car, like like and I'm just now with my first group offer where I'm actually getting stacked money on my time. I'm not like having to juggle severe management responsibilities for like one or two large companies. I'm just now after what is it? I mean, after the card magic 14 or after the first real
Mhm.
job 18, 19. Either way, it's 15, 20 years or so of
Yeah.
eating a lot of shit to really be able to start to coast a little bit. And I know folks, and Gary Vaynerchuk will tell you about these stories of people who didn't start till they were in their 40s and 50s and 60s. And
Yeah.
I hope Chuck's stories keep getting farther out. He's like, this person didn't start till they were 90
Right, right.
because it's not your timing. You just do it until it happens. Just do it until it happens. Keep going till it happens.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And that's a funny thing about life is there's really no timeline. There's just no timeline in it. Like there are times where I feel like I wish I would have started younger, but I was like 22 or 23 when I started this. And it's like, you know what? Like, I don't know. There's really no timeline to life. And it's just understanding that or trying to come to understanding in terms of it. Cause even saying this, it's acting like I figured it out. Dude, there's so much I'm figuring out. There are still glass shattering things that happen in my life. Like, whoa, and it just being okay with being wrong and like being okay with changing the entire frame on which you built your life. I think that's really hard, is being able to say everything that I thought was right or true isn't. And once you're able to do that, you could have glass shattering moments all the time.
And speaking of that, your company services real estate agents, teams, and brokerages, which was also one of my big breakthroughs, several big breakthroughs in my entrepreneurship journey happened. So if anyone listening is like, what's a path forward? What can I do? How can I get started? Please consider getting your real estate license. It's like a business in a box, basically, when you get started at a good brokerage. And if you want to talk to Nick about it, we'll put his personal website in the show notes. You're free to reach out to him, have a conversation, hit him up and say hi. He's very friendly. Trust me.
No, I appreciate that. And yeah, I feel like real estate, it's just, there's so much business around real estate, whether you get into the real estate business, renting, flipping, like there's so much just business minded individuals that are in it that you really can't go wrong. It's a great place. I think that's a great point. Like you said, it's like business in a box.
And like I said, I started with property management, which is kind of one of those industries around it. And I still have friends in title companies. I still have friends that own brokerages. I still have friends that are agents. Yeah, it's a good pond to start dipping your toes into for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So we're about at the 3-minute mark. We'll probably tie it up soon. Any last words, Nick? Any last final core messages you want to kick back to our lovely listeners here?
Man, what I would say is when it comes down to it, sometimes I like to think about, at the end of time, at the end of life, I saw this once and it really made me start looking at things differently. What if, like, when you die, when you pass away, they literally roll stats on your life about like, how much time did you spend with these individuals? How much time did you spend playing video games? How much time did you spend watching TV? How much time did you spend being happy? How much time did you spend being fulfilled? How much time did you spend feeling anxious? How much time did you spend feeling not accomplishing your dreams? Like, what if they literally rolled stats and you got to see your life through that lens?
Just like on your phone, but for your life.
Exactly.
Like
It's
this
stats
app.
on your life. And, my question is, would you be happy with your stats right now? If you were able to look at them, and I'm sure you have a good idea, would you be happy with the stats that you would see? Do you spend time feeling fulfilled? Do you spend time feeling happy? Do you spend too much time on video games? Do you spend time with loved ones? What if your TV to loved ones time was 50-1, where you spent 50 times more time watching TV than it was with loved ones? And, I just think it's really important because I believe time is our most valuable asset. It's literally not a dollar amount in the world that can buy back a second of time you've already spent. So like really taking a look at what are you doing with your time? And are you going to be happy with the results when it's all said and done?
Yeah, man. And my first thought when you started sharing that was, I want to spend more time with my loved ones, dude. Like, that's the whole reason I think it's so important for people to even try to establish their own side income, at least, because they shouldn't be stuck at an office for 8 hours a day plus commute. Nobody should be, and then not have a bunch of money at the end of the day. Like, your family deserves more.
You deserve more. You
Facts.
deserve more. People say, I'll die for my family. Will you live for them? Right? Will you do it? Will you do this?
I say that all the time. It's like, yes, we're willing to die for things, but that's not the mindset. The mindset is, how can we live for this as much as possible?
Yeah, I hear you. And it's just understanding man, I saw another great quote where it's like, if I gave you $1 million right now, Steven, would you take it?
Yes.
Of course, right? Of course. If I gave you $1 million, but the caveat is you don't wake up tomorrow, would you still take it?
Hell no.
So you're telling me that waking up tomorrow is worth more than $1 million to you?
It's worth more than $10 million.
It's more than $10 million. So like, why don't we treat our lives that way? We always say like dollar amounts, I need the money. Understanding what true value is. All money is a connotation of value, like what you deem as valuable. So if waking up tomorrow is worth more than $10 million, start treating it that way, family. You have so much value in your time. Your time is your most valuable asset. And really start looking at that in a different. Once you frame that differently, you're like, why am I spending 8 hours of my day here only bringing up this much value? Start looking at your time as just so much more valuable than that.
Yeah, dude, and I think next episode we could talk a little bit more, because that makes me think of, I believe time's actually abundant in the sense that you're an eternal soul and can go through multiple lifetimes. And so it's like money is taught to be scarce, right? And that controls poor people. So they believe it's limited and finite. And you break through and you realize it's actually, you're playing a different game. I think it's the same with time. You realize you're actually a soul going through multiple lifetimes. And that's when you start planting trees for future generations. And you don't care about yourself when you're just pure service mode. But time, just like money, should not be squandered. It is a gift. It's a blessing to be treasured. And you are a steward of your time, a steward of your money. And where you spend it and invest it shows the universe who you are and what matters to you.
Yeah. I love how you said that too, because I'll tell you what, if that's the case, if it is, because I've went down that road too, like living infinite lives. What was my past life? I start thinking, what is the lesson that my soul is trying to learn in this life? What is the transcendence that it could have? Is there something that's itching at me that it's like, I know deep down that like I need to transcend to become something more, because I just feel like, man, what is the lesson I'm supposed to learn in this life? What is the things that I'm supposed to learn? Humility, like what, no matter what it is. So that way my spiritual side can grow. It's like planting a seed for your spiritual side to allow that to grow and blossom. Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother conversation we can get into, brother.
Yeah, dude, I appreciate your time. I got to cut it off for the listener's sake. It's been a real honor and blessing. Link in the show notes to hit up Nick. Much love, y'all.
Appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in to The Blunt Truth with Stephen and Dougie. Enjoy the conversation. Join us every Wednesday for more unfiltered discussions. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Your support keeps the truth coming. Elevate your journey. Connect with us on social media at blunttruthpodcast.com. Until next time, be kind, keep growing, and remember, knowledge is infinite.